Hello, my beautiful librarians and some others. We love working with you all. And at SciStarter, we have a particular focus in partnering with libraries in a program called Libraries as Community Hubs for Citizen Science. So if you are not yet part of this network of libraries that is interested, excited about citizen science, wants to learn more, you don't need to already be participating. It's a free network. It includes newsletters and professional development opportunities and funding opportunities like this. Please sign up today to get upcoming opportunities. I do see a lot of names in the chat that are part of the network, so heart. And welcome if you are not. So what SciStarter is doing is really supporting libraries to become community hubs for citizen science. And this means everything from becoming a place to support communities in accessing the internet and participating in citizen science projects via the internet, hosting programming that introduces people to the concept of citizen science and provides them with support on how to, let's say, download the iNaturalist app and take photos, or provides them with specialized tools like a light meter. Lots of libraries have citizen science kits that they are putting into circulation where people can come and learn about projects and access these resources. So if you go to the next slide, this network is the resources of this network are vast, and we've spent the last several years developing everything that we could possibly think of from your feedback on what you might need to become a community hub from citizen science. So this includes, for a start, an editable slide deck and facilitator guide that you can use to create a program to introduce people to citizen science. We do have turnkey tutorials on citizen science 101 foundations, on a library citizen science program. So if you have not completed the tutorial, they're self-guided. They are for anyone. I would say do that first before doing anything to get your background on citizen science down so that you can be a great communicator about what citizen science is to others. And you can use that slide deck and those facilitator guides to host programs and introduce your patrons to citizen science. We also have developed some turnkey promotional materials like these flyers that you see on this image, not postcards, bookmarks, buttons, social media assets. There are use and open source images that you can use to create your own flyers. We have a social media and marketing toolkit that talks about what is citizen science and how you can promote it and provide information to your library users. We also have kit building guides. So I think Caroline's going to talk a little bit more about this later, but our kits, so we don't provide the kits, but we've provided basically a soup to nuts guide on how to build a citizen science kit for lots of different projects. We're going to go into some of those projects today, but if you're interested in knowing more about the kits, that is something that you should check out. Emma and Caroline have been developing event recipe cards for lots of different projects to try to give you a quick snapshot of what could an event look like, from setting the stage to, planning, setting the stage, to hosting the event and follow up for lots of different types of projects. We also have professional development webinars like this one, and lots to come in the next couple of months as we gear up again for Citizen Science Month in April. Libraries were a tremendous supporter this year in getting to 1 million acts of science. And we're going to be doing that again next year. And so we've developed all of these resources for libraries to use to host events during April Citizen Science Month. And we're excited to tell you about a new program called the SciStarter Ambassador Program, which is launching at the end of, really August 1st. It is a way to get volunteers interested in citizen science trained and receiving badges and receiving lots of things to become official SciStarter ambassadors to help you at your community and your community engage in citizen science. So if you have excited patrons, excited library users that want to take one step further in becoming an ambassador and getting their feet wet with citizen science, that is the way to do it. And if you sign up for that newsletter, you're going to hear all about the SciStarter Ambassador launch and program coming up. So I think Roland put that sign up for the network in the chat. So please do that. And I think that's my last slide for now. And we're going to tell you about what's coming up, what this amazing opportunity is, and why libraries are our key audience for this.
And I'll go ahead and stop my screen share so that you all can introduce yourselves before Caroline moves us forward. Cool.
All right. Well, I am so happy to be chatting with all of you. I think that Flyways is just one of the coolest projects I've ever been involved with. While I get the slides up, I'm going to go ahead and pass the mic to Alex from HHMI Tangled Bank Studios to say hello.
Hi, thank you for having me, and it's just a privilege to work with this community. I am an impact producer with HHMI Tangled Bank Studios, working on Flyways. I also happen to be an avid birder myself and participate in community science surveys as well. So excited to couple my professional and personal passions with this project.
Awesome. Yes, I warned Alex ahead of time because we got librarians, library staff, community-based organizations on the line. You we always ask the tough questions about topics like birding and migration and all the sciences of it. So I'm very grateful that Alex is here, so she can help answer some of those. But okay, first and foremost, welcome everybody. We are here in part because HHMI Tangled Bank Studios is part of the team behind Flyways, a new documentary. I'm going to make sure I shared with sound, because if I didn't, that'd be a huge rookie mistake. Okay. So to kick things off, just so you have an idea of how things are going to go, we're going to start off by showing you the documentary for Flyways, talking a little bit about the film. Then we're going to talk about the SciStarter.org/Flyways page that has different citizen science projects related to birds, bird habitats, ecosystems on it, and library kits, all sorts of different resources. So you can bring the Flyways documentary, but also bring different citizen science follow-on activities to your community. So you inspire them with Flyways, then you get them involved in the citizen science. So we're going to go through the Flyways page and the different opportunities we have showcased there. Then we're going to talk a little bit about programming and try to give you all some specific ideas about how you can get ready for the fall migration, how you can bring these activities to your community. And we also want to hear from you because we have many resources showcased on that page, but we also want to build more. And you all often have some of the best ideas. And sometimes, because I view us all as a community together, maybe you end up creating a really great toolkit, our shelf talker, or some sort of resource that we can feature on that page so other library staff can find it. So I really want it to be an active discussion when we get to that part. And then we'll end by talking about the specific mini grant opportunity that you can currently find at the bottom of the Flyways SciStarter page. This mini grant is $800. We'll talk about, we want it to inspire creativity with it. You know, we want you to use the grant to introduce Flyways to your library, the documentary itself. We want you to, participate in the citizen science projects and calls to action showcased on that Flyways SciStarter page. And we also want you to use the SciStarter library kits we have and circulate them to your community so they can, take their participation to the next level. But also we want unique ideas to come through. I know not everyone here will be applying for the grant, so that's why we put it at the very end. But we'll end with that and be able to do ample Q&A as well. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and start playing this documentary and this trailer to the documentary.
Birds take to the sky for a marathon migration.
The way a group looks, the way they move together, it is remarkable.
They follow ancient routes called flyways, but the world beneath their wings is changing.
We see a population that is declining. We learn from the birds as canaries in the coal mine because they tell a global story that the world has troubles.
So hopefully that was a little bit of a tantalizing sneak peek. So you all I hope everybody saw the documentary trailer there for you. But okay, so what is Flyways? So it's a documentary. It's about 50 minutes. If you watch the documentary that is linked on the SciStarter Flyways page, and that's on PBS Nature. And you can go to SciStarter.org/Flyways to find it. It's all about shorebirds. So, shorebirds, they fly thousands of miles each year along ancient and largely unknown migratory routes called flyways. And what makes a shorebird, right? They have certain things in common. They are by water. Many of them have long legs and those long beaks, and there are about more than 200 species. So some of them that are featured in the film are the Godwits, the Hudsonian Godwits, the Curlews. And one of my favorite parts of the film was just seeing the scientists from around the world talk about these beautiful birds that they study. And it's just, these migrations are just awe-inspiring. The fact that the birds are perfectly evolved to fly for 9 days nonstop, the fact that they can do it without food or water, but as you'll learn when you watch the film, populations are crashing among climate change and urban development, and we're seeing physical changes in the birds themselves, that they're having to, for example, digest the mussels they need to fly if they can't find the food sources they used to have due to factors like drought, for example, like the droughts that we see in Texas. So Flyways invites viewers to follow the conservation movement of bird-loving experts and citizen scientists. And there are some citizen scientists in the film who tag the birds with tracking devices, the volunteers who help the scientists. And then after you watch this film, you get all inspired, you can go to SciStarter and find the citizen science projects like eBird, and then its companion, Merlin Bird ID, the iNaturalist, where you can study the plants and animals that birds need to survive, Globe at Night, where you can monitor light pollution, which is a factor that impacts the migration. We really want this film to be your inspirational gateway to show your communities to get them started in these activities. Alex, is there anything you want to add specifically about the film itself, and what it means to you as an avid birder?
Yeah, I think that's a great overview. It shows just the wonders of bird migration. It's this incredible thing that happens twice a year where these birds take off from the southern hemisphere, fly along these same ancient routes they've been flying, for centuries, often using stopover sites. So here in North America, shorebirds really rely on those refueling spots. And one of the really interesting ones you see in the film is the Dakotas. You wouldn't expect to see a shorebird in North Dakota, but they really rely on wetlands that occur there in fall and spring. So it's a really good look at, sort of the conservation needs of these birds, but also just a really important reminder about the value of citizen science data. These birds are going from one end of the hemisphere to the other, and scientists really rely on that community participation, community-led science, and just that involvement. And it's pretty spectacular to think about the ways that shorebirds and other migratory birds really connect us all. It's neat to think that a bird coming to your neighborhood has been all the way to Chile and is about to go to Alaska. So that it's a wonderful thing to think about. We hope this film sparks interest and gets you learning about migratory birds. The other thing that's pretty interesting about fall migration in particular is the babies that are hatched in the Arctic are flying down to homes that they've never been to. Scientists don't really know how they know where to go, but many often land, miles within where they were born or miles within, where their family came from. So it's a pretty spectacular thing to see that these birds are just instinctually able to return to a home they've never seen. So it's a pretty interesting thing.
It's so fast. Okay, so I was reading up on some of the theories, and part of it is like it's the magnetic field, but scientists don't really know. It's just so fascinating. The different the theories that they have are like some scientists posit and every bird species is different, but some scientists posit that the birds are able to find their way home because of like certain landmarks. Like sometimes birds are able to recognize specific rivers and use that to find their way home. That's why light pollution is such a problem and why it impacts bird migration, because the birds can be tempted into cities and end up hitting building glass, and that can pose a huge threat to the bird migration itself. Alex, I feel like you have things to say about that.
Yeah, there's a lot of scientific mystery still to unfurl, and one of the first steps is to really research and understand where these birds are going, so we can protect them better, to ensure that we have that time to research them and understand how they pull off these incredible feats. So part of what's so valuable about citizen science data and community participation, is that understanding of where these birds are going, where are they stopping, what are some of the more unexpected places we're finding these migratory birds, and what are the spaces they rely on? Because by protecting those spaces and supporting our wild places, there's also a lot of benefits to people too, right? Having a nice shoreline benefits people as well as birds. So There's a lot that we can learn about them from the health of our environments as well.
Oh my gosh, you read my mind, because we have a slide later called literally "Why do we care?" About birds, other than them just being beautiful and majestic, because that's a big piece of it too. They're part of our shared natural heritage. But we, like Alex said, there are lots of reasons, why we should care about them for our own continued survival. But okay, so how do you watch the film? So go to SciStarter.org/flyways. And if you're outside the US, there's information there about who you can email. And there's also a form you can fill out if you want to host an international screening. So the film is free to watch, and you can find the link to it on SciStarter.org/flyways. Okay, and the natural segue, why do we care? Why do we study, birds, bird food, habitats, light pollution with citizen science? Well, number one, like Alex said, you want to understand changes and trends in the natural world. And citizen scientists are really necessary for this. There's a lot we're able to understand about bird migration with tools like radar, because birds fly so high in the sky. Tools that normally we designed to monitor weather, we're also able to monitor bird migration, but we still need the granularity of species on the ground. So most birds migrate at night. Over 80% of birds migrate at night. 80% of migratory birds migrate at night. But even so, during the day, they might stop for food, or they stop to rest. So we need citizen scientists to observe them then. And we want to understand what species there are. So just the ground truthing of that is so vital. And the work of citizen scientists is truly needed to understand changes and trends in the natural world on the ground in regard to birds. And also, what's the value of having this data-driven understanding? It's because we're going to be able to help scientists, conservationists, and community leaders make better decisions. What we've seen is, based on understandings of bird migration, people are able to organize lights out events where, let's say the birds are coming at a particular time, a particular bird species migration is coming to your community sometime in October. You can organize your community to have everybody turn the lights out that night so the birds have a better chance of getting where they need to go. Or as you might see in the Flyways film, one of the scientists who was interviewed mentioned, bird migration and agriculture can coexist. The birds need these swampy marshlands for their food, but they only need it for a certain part of the year. So if we have data about what's happening with the migration and when, the agricultural specialists and the conservationists can work together on land management to make better decisions so both humans and birds can thrive. And also, we need citizen scientists in this regard, because due to climate change, due to urban development, due to all sorts of different factors, the timing of bird migration is changing because bird food sources are shifting, crop times are shifting. We need citizen scientists to understand these shifts so we can make those better decisions. And we just want to do this because we want a healthy environment for all of us now and for future generations. We're all connected. This world is a web. The well-being of birds impacts our well-being. I'm sure some of you read Silent Spring in school, Rachel Carson's Silent Spring. One of the first signs that something was wrong was the birds stopped singing. So that's a clear indicator that changes in the environment might be impacting humans negatively soon. So we need to preserve the birds for their own sake, but also for ours. And we need to use citizen science to understand birds, their migratory patterns, their food sources, their habitats, and other factors that impact them, like light pollution. So we've been talking a lot about these different projects that are spotlight on the SciStarter.org/Flyways page. One of the keynote ones, so let's say you watch Flyways with your community, you do a screener at the library, everyone is pumped up and ready to go and to participate in a citizen science project. One of the classic projects is eBird. So bear with me, eBird and Merlin pair together. So I know some of you have done citizen science before, some of you hadn't. So typically, when you participate in a citizen science project, you are collecting or analyzing data for a research community, a group of scientists. You're just trying to gather information about the world that we can look for patterns in to understand it better. So with eBird, the research teams here are looking for information about what birds are where and how many there are. And birds can be kind of tricky. So some of you might have done iNaturalist before, right? So you're able to take pictures of different plants and animals. I submitted a picture of a bunny in my backyard this morning to iNaturalist, and it was very fun. That's a bit of uncultivated nature, right? No human raised that bunny that's just frolicking in my backyard. So I was able to submit that observation to iNaturalist. But with birds, it might be kind of hard to snap a picture of them unless you have specialized equipment. Maybe you're on a walk on a nature trek, and you're trying to monitor birds as you go. eBird is perfect for that. And it's also, one reason eBird exists is because a lot of birders do this thing called a life list, where they want to keep track of all the birds they saw when throughout their birding career. eBird is the most efficient way to keep track of a life list, because before eBird, before the advent of digital technology, people would use birding guides, field guides, and people still do. They're great resources. But they would keep their list of birds they saw by hand or in a nature journal. Now you can pair these more, paper resources. I still journal while I'm out in nature participating in citizen science, but then you can also use eBird to digitize as you go and keep track of things in an easy portable source over time. So eBird can be for more experienced birders, and I'm sure you have some of those in your library who could maybe mentor other folks, because the thing about birding is you really want mentorship, more experienced birders who can share their knowledge with people who are just starting out, but you're able to keep track as you go of the number of birds that you observe, counts of all the birds detected. So eBird is really fundamentally a list app. And Alex actually leads bird treks in her community, so I'll let her chime in here and talk a little bit about how she uses eBird.
Yeah, of course. And we'll talk shortly about Merlin as well, which is a great app that helps you identify birds as well. But eBird is a really important app because it's linked to a database where scientists are looking to see what birds are where. It's really a shared network similar to iNaturalist, where your data is going into this globally accessible place where anyone locally can look and see what species have been observed at what time of the year, at what locations. So there's a really great, easy tutorial that's available for free through the Cornell Lab of Ornithology, who created eBird and Merlin, that walks you through how to use it. So there's two ways you can create a checklist when you are out doing a bird walk or a survey. You can either do it by hand, just listing out the birds that you've seen and doing a little check number as you see them, and then add it to eBird later. You can also use the app as well as you're out and just create a checklist in the app too. But it's a pretty easy tool in that it will give you a list of birds that are likely to be in your location. So you're not, considering, is that some bird that would be in Africa? You're given a local list of birds that are likely to be where you are as a starting point, which is really useful. And then Merlin, like we said, is a great app to help you identify the birds you're seeing to add to your eBird list.
I'm so glad you mentioned the lists by location. So if you're about to go on vacation, and you want to know birds of Scotland, you can download a pack of birds, like Alex said, and you are able to monitor birds where you are in the world. So great resource there. And eBird I love it because your data is going to a good place. The fact that people are able to use it to make conservation decisions, like we mentioned earlier, it goes into peer-reviewed papers, so it's really advancing science. Students can use that data to do their own research, and it's just the best global source for citizen science bird data. But so you're hearing about this thing called Merlin. So Merlin Bird ID, this has been great for me as the novice birder, because it provides all sorts of different tools to help identify the bird. So there are AI tools. If you are able to snag a picture, after all, it can help you identify the bird based on that. But there are also tools where there are a series of questions you can answer. So how big was that bird? And that helps you narrow down what type of bird it is, or what did the bird call sound like? That's one thing I'm always impressed when I go out with more experienced birders, probably like Alex. I bet she's a master at knowing different bird calls. But a lot of birders will really have the ear for it, and they'll say, yes, that's the Hudsonian Godwit. I can hear it right now, So birders are, but eBird helps you, Merlin helps you get those skills so you can just start using eBird like a pro. So as you're introducing your community to eBird, having them download the Merlin Bird ID app and go through the features to learn how to identify birds, the AI tools, the question tools, that's huge and very helpful. And you can also sync Merlin with eBird to submit your observations there. So overall, just a phenomenal tool. And we're going to skip this video for the sake of time. Okay, so we've talked about eBird and Merlin. where you're observing the birds themselves. But SciStarter also has these citizen science kits that you can circulate in your library, just to move people into the ecosystem of citizen science and understanding the world by collecting and analyzing data. So we mentioned earlier light pollution. So because of artificial light in the night sky, birds struggle with their migrations that they would traditionally take. So different conservation organizations do those lights out campaigns when bird migrations are about to start, to help monitor, to help the birds out and reduce the amount of artificial light in the sky. Well, the Globe at Night project is a project that's trying to figure out how much artificial light is in the sky in different places. I really like this project because it kind of has two tiers. So tier one, just the project, you can do with just your eyes. And it's very accessible if you wanted to lead your community in it. So you just go outside, 8 p.m. local time, look up, and you count the number of stars that you see in the featured constellation for that month's campaign. And they have different constellations for different hemispheres. And if there are stars in that constellation that you can't see, your view of those stars is likely obscured by light pollution. So it's just a simple data form. You collect that data, you're able to do it with your own eyes. But if you want to take your contributions to the next level, you can use a sky quality meter and take astronomical measurements and astronomers' units of the amount of light pollution. You can see that on the page, the sky quality meter right there. And you can provide other helpful resources to people to figure out where different constellations are in the night sky. You can print out guides for them that SciStarter has prepared. So we have all these kit materials that you can package up in your library. You can print them off from the SciStarter page. You can order the components that we suggest. And you can also use your mini grant funds if you get the Flyways mini grant to order these kits if you want to help people take their Globe at Night participation to that next level. And similarly, iNaturalist. So you heard about eBird and Merlin, which are for birds. You heard about Globe at Night, which is for light pollution. iNaturalist is really laser focused on biodiversity. So biodiversity is all the different plants and animals that are in an ecosystem. And iNaturalist really wants you to look at uncultivated nature, which means that humans didn't have a role in creating it. So we're not talking about the Chinese hibiscus plants in my garden that I take such beautiful care of and I have introduced. We're talking about wildflowers, or that bunny I mentioned earlier that I submitted to iNaturalist. And the great thing about iNaturalist is you can use it to observe the things that birds eat, like caterpillars, are the different food sources that are so important for them as they are on their migratory path. So iNaturalist really gets at the whole ecosystem that you're looking at. And you can do it with just the app by taking pictures of the plants and animals that you're observing, indicating where you observed them and when, and submitting it. Or there's a kit where, once again, you can take your contributions to the next level, where SciStarter has provided printable materials, some instructions that people can take into the field with them, and a community field book, and a camera lens you can put on your phone, binoculars, all sorts of different tips. And we find that Tara can speak more about this because, she's in a leadership role at SciStarter's library network, helping people, deploy these kits in their communities. But these kits are a way for people to discover citizen science, serendipitously when they're in the library. So once again, we recommend the iNaturalist kit for people who are looking to introduce flyways and related programs to their community, because that's really gets at the bird habitats and allows for a holistic study of the environment. And I'm going to pass the mic back to Alex now that you've heard about eBird, Merlin, the Globe at Night kit, the iNaturalist kit, and she's going to tell you a little bit about other helpful resources to augment your citizen science programming. So Alex, take it away.
Yeah, I wanted to flag two really fantastic digital resources that are available for free that can help you get to know the birds coming in and out of your locations and when you're going to experience peak migration where you live. The first is from the National Audubon Society. This is called the Migratory Bird Explorer. And one really fun fact that I recently learned is some of the science that you see in the film is actually some of the data that's used in this database too. So the Hudsonian Godwit is one of the stars of our show. The scientists that you see working from Chile up to Texas, up to the Dakotas, and then Alaska, the data that they're collecting in the film is actually featured in this platform. But this is a really great tool to use to get to know where these birds are going to and coming from. So there's a couple of views that you can take in here. You can look by specific species. So if you want to learn more about the birds in our film or birds you've seen in our area, you can search by a specific bird. You can also look at locations. So you can set it to where you live and see some of the birds coming to and from your area and see where they're coming from. Which is a really neat way to learn where your birds are visiting you from and the different locations you're connected to. The third is conservation challenges. So, as Caroline referenced, drought is a really big issue for some of the stopover sites that migratory birds rely on. So you can use this third section to get to know some of the conservation threats in your area. It also has a really useful list that helps you find birding organizations and other conservation groups in your area too. So if you're looking to partner with a chapter of an Audubon society in your area or other groups that are working to help research and protect birds, this is a really great resource to help find some of those organizations. And our team is partnering with Audubon Society and several other groups, so we can certainly help make recommendations for local partnerships too. But it's a really great resource. It couples nicely with the film if you're looking for an indoor activity to further learning. And then Birdcast is from the Cornell Lab of Ornithology, the same group that has eBird and Merlin. This tool is using satellite data to better understand when migration is happening and when the peaks are for each location. It's a really cool way to just get that sort of spatial view of where these birds are and when. We wanted to make sure you all were aware of this tool too, because as Caroline said, turning off your lights during peak migration is a really easy task that anyone can do to help support their birds and just spreading that knowledge that this is happening and just to make those sort of short-term behavior changes can do a lot of good. It's also just really cool to know how many birds are flying over you at night. So I wanted to share this resource as well for further learning too.
Yeah, and I think it's so interesting that different birds have different migrations because all the different species fall is generally a hub, but you can use Birdcast to figure out like what peak migrations are occurring near your library, and you can tailor your programming accordingly. And Birdcast is linked on the Flyways page on SciStarter, so you're able to find it there. So I'm just very excited to see how you all deploy these resources in your community. And we really hope that you do sign up for that library network that Tara mentioned earlier, because we're going to keep on adding resources, projects from the film, other things that you can take to your community onto this Flyways page. So make sure you subscribe to the library network so you're in the loop for those updates. But okay, the moment you've all been waiting for, we've been hinting at this. So we mentioned different birds migrate at different times. Shorebirds in particular follow these paths called flyways, and they're going all around the world from hemisphere to hemisphere. But there really is it all comes to a head in the fall. And in particular, there's one day that the birding community has picked called Global Big Day. This year it's on October 12th. And they want folks to get in there and participate. And there are two Global Big Days. The spring one just happened. And the Cornell team actually prepared a video about everything that people monitored in the spring. So we're going to play it for you now so you can get all inspired. And then we'll figure out how we're going to make the most of this fall to document even more birds and understand the world even more. So it's coming again this fall, October 12th, and the migration this time around starts off in Mexico, Central and South America, and the Caribbean and goes up. But as we said, different birds migrate at different times. It's not just the shorebirds on the flyways that are highlighted by our programming. You can look at Birdcast and find the birds that are migrating in your neck of the woods, and celebrate then. It's just Global Big Day is a time that we really want people to participate because the whole global community tries to galvanize action and get people excited on that particular day because it just happens to be a peak. So we got you all excited. We talked to you about this big global thing coming this fall, Global Big Day, and all different ways that you can engage your community in bird and bird-related citizen science year-round. Now we're going to give you some actual tools and some program ideas, and then we want to hear from you because maybe you have even more program ideas that we can share with the rest of the library network, and we can all lift each other up. So we created this recipe card that's going up on the Flyways page shortly. And the idea is we want to help you all have these programs in your community where you can screen flyways and then bring people out to participate in bird citizen science, and then maybe have some campaigns in your library or community-based organization around it. Maybe you have bird books on display at the front of the library for the month-long bird campaign you do with this keynote event of screening flyways and having people participate in projects. Maybe you feature the SciStarter kits and encourage people to check them out after screening flyways at the library. Whatever it is, we just want you to take action and adapt these materials in a way that you think will resonate with your community. So these are just some ideas. But what we recommend is SciStarter, as you all know, if you've joined our library network, has a number of resources to introduce the concept of citizen science, which is, collecting and analyzing data to understand the world. We have a number of resources to introduce your communities to citizen science, including our Foundations of Citizen Science training. So one way you could start, and these are just suggestions, we want to hear your creativity, is you can introduce your community through this training, and then they can all get badges. And then after that, you can have them create SciStarter accounts so they can find even more citizen science projects across all sorts of disciplines, everything from astronomy to health to, birds, everything in between. And then we recommend screening the Flyways documentary as a hook for people to get them into the library and get them excited. And then after that, after you've got them hooked and you've introduced them to citizen science, we recommend participating in one of the projects featured on the Flyways page. So maybe you have them, go out and do a nature walk around the library and participate in Merlin or eBird. Maybe you do something remote. Maybe your library is more asynchronous. So you post on social media a ton about Merlin and eBird, so people find out about it and get started and report back to the library what they did, and you have some sort of fun social media campaign. But the nature walk seems to be tried and true. Or maybe you invite a chapter of Audubon or a local expert from the university closest to you and have them give a talk about birds, and then have some of the birding enthusiasts from your library community walk people through it. There are lots of different ways you can put your own spin on this. And you can also showcase the complimentary project kits that we mentioned for iNaturalist and Globe at Night, and wrap all of this together in a big, beautiful citizen science circle. And all of these activities are on the SciStarter Flyways page. And also you can have participants write down observations if you want to have them do it, outside. You could have them take notes and then come back and submit later. eBird supports that functionality. The Merlin Bird app is a great identification activity, as we talked about earlier. And then once you all come back, maybe you discuss what you saw as a group. You submit the data to these different projects. And maybe you use it as a jumping off point for conservation. We keep on mentioning these lights out events. Maybe you end up organizing one. It's really up to you. The power is in your hands. So we've gotten you excited. We've given you some ideas. Tara is going to briefly talk about the grant, and then we'll end with lots of Q&A. So Tara, over to you.
Yes. Yes, there's some great questions in the chat as well, that and in the Q&A that I want to make sure that we address. But before we even jump into this grant, 2 questions. Can we show the film and do the activities without the citizen science kit aspect, and even if we don't receive the grant? And the answer is yes. The grant is there to help those who receive the funding be able to do, if they want to build a kit or, use it towards other events. But if you have funding to be able to do that already, or if you don't want to do the kit and you just want to stream the film and showcase other citizen science activities, absolutely. And there's going to be another webinar in August, which is going to, again, sort of reiterate some of these activities that you can do. go even deeper into the bird science and some of the citizen science. So we absolutely encourage anyone who's interested to host an event and stream the film and engage their communities. But for those who are interested in applying for the mini grant, it is open to all U.S. libraries and other community-based organizations, with priority for those that are partnering with libraries, because we want to make sure that this is a broad reach of people in the community. So what do you get? The benefits: $800 stipend, some of that for materials, some of that for event promotions, and materials or event supplies and citizen science kits. We have that webinar that we're going to talk even more about how to screen the film and all the related citizen science materials. We're also would be happy to jump on the call with any grantees to talk about their programming and provide technical support if they need guidance. And then obviously membership to the Citizen and Community Science Library Network. And share back with the network about your programs. We'll probably feature you in a newsletter just so that others can see what amazing work that this library network is doing. So what are the expectations of the mini grant? To host at least one event, although we'd love if this was a series, or if you maximize the funds in some way, that'd be really great. Also, expectations to purchase and assemble materials to build citizen science kits. Again, they don't have to look exactly like the kits on SciStarter. They can make sense for you. It's tell us about how you propose using the funds to supply some of those harder to find materials like the light meter or lenses or other materials related to citizen science projects. We also expect that grantees will promote their event on SciStarter to put it up there so that we can keep track of all of the amazing events that are happening. Even if they're private events, there's a way to tag that in SciStarter. You don't have to promote them publicly, but we love to just see on the back end all of the great events libraries are doing, and then tracking your event attendance and your engagement. And then there will be a short report at the end to tell us about how everything went and what we could have done better and all of that good stuff. So it's a super simple application. I believe there's 5 questions or so. So just, yeah, as Caroline said, be creative. We are hoping to see all kinds of different types of engagement opportunities. Tell us how you're going to utilize the SciStarter resources, what different audiences you're going to engage. We would love to hear it. Next slide, please. Yeah, so here's some of the questions that people have actually asked. Do I need a grant to host a program? Nope. You can use all of the resources and be part of this community just by engaging with the film and the resources. Are you strict about the activities funded by the grant? We're trying to encourage creativity. So as long as it is tied to the Flyways film and citizen science and a citizen science project and citizen science materials, then all ideas are welcome. And I'm going to look in the Q&A just to see if other questions. Oh, is there a deadline to hold programs by? That's a great point. So we kept it fairly broad. We said the fall. So as Caroline mentioned, that October 17th, is that the right date? Is that
October 12th?
October 12th. That is the great, sorry, Caroline, you're gonna have to say the name of it again. The big day?
Global Big Day.
Global Big Day, thank you. So, generally around then, obviously around fall migration. So anytime in the fall would be acceptable. Just let us know. The grant awards, so the deadline to apply is the end of the month, and then 2 weeks after that, so mid-July, you'll find out who will be awarded the mini grants. I think there's a couple of other questions in the chat, in the Q&A as well. I just want to address this one publicly. Do we have to have performance rights to show the film to groups? Yes, Flyways is available for screening globally. So event confirmation form. Alex, do you want to say a little bit more about that?
Yeah, of course. Flyways is available for free on PBS Nature on the website as well as in the app. Because the film is only available for streaming in the United States, we just have 2 different forms. So the film is available globally for community events. If you're in the US, we have a form where we can get you a digital download if you need it. We have just a box to agree to those terms for the screening license. Internationally, same thing. We just have a slightly different form, and that just makes it easier on our end. but the film is available with captions, and probably around August we'll have captions in Spanish as well.
And
Wonderful.
we tried to make it easy for you all. So all these forms and like literally anything you could need is on that SciStarter.org/flyways page.
That's what
Yeah,
I
and
was
we'll
just going to say, Caroline. Go ahead, Alex.
we'll
Yeah.
al- we'll also make available some customizable materials that can be used for promotion as well, including graphics, some images, a template event invitation you can use, and a template press release as well that you can customize with your event information.
That's really helpful. And I know we're working on a screening guide as well and some other really great guides. So
Yeah, and that'll walk you through step-by-step recommendations for how to host a film screening, and then link to some of the resources that we have that can be coupled for citizen science activity.
great. Another question that I want to just make sure we answer publicly. I'm in Arizona. We don't have any shores. Can my library still participate in this in the Flyways? Yes, absolutely. As Alex mentioned or Caroline mentioned, the Dakotas, has migratory birds. Yeah, go ahead, Alex. You can
Yeah,
speak
our
to
film is specific to shorebirds. They're incredible migrants and just a really good, clear example of what migration entails. Some of the science, some of the mysteries we're still unfolding. We hope the film is useful for inspiring, conversations and activities around migratory birds generally, and just getting to know your local birds at all. So it really does not have to be shorebird related. But like the film shows, they come up in some unexpected areas. There's even a shorebird that can be found in the mountains in like Colorado. So you might be surprised to find that some are stopping through your area you wouldn't expect. It's a fun thing to share. But otherwise, definitely please feel free to tailor your events to the birds that are in your region as well. And if you are in an area that has shorebirds, we are partnering with some groups that, depending on where you're located, we can help connect you with too for shorebird related events.
That's super
Yeah.
helpful.
On that note too, I think the birdcast is really helpful in understanding what birds are migrating near you. So as we mentioned, we want you to keep it creative. You can study any birds in your community, and birdcast is a really great resource to figure out like what's going on, like what migratory path am I on, what birds should I expect to see when. So definitely do we're here to help, but please contextualize these materials to your community, and you can still apply for the grant no matter where you are in the States.
Yeah, and one thing that might be useful to address too, it's great to partner with local organizations already working in the birding space if you're able. But I will say tools like Merlin make it really easy to get started, even if you've never been birding before or don't have a level of expertise. It really provides you with the information needed to get started getting to know your local birds. It has a feature where you can hold up your phone and get an audio recording, and it'll tell you what birds you're hearing. It'll give you some visualizations to help see what birds are coming through your area too. So it's great to work with, experienced birders if possible, but you can really get started even without that level of expertise with these free tools.
I know
I just realized the RFP says July 1st, but I think that was a Saturday. So I think we ended up changing it to June 30th, which is a Friday, I believe. So June 30th is the deadline to apply. I just changed it in the RFP as well. I think on the website. So I'm going to put a link to the grant expectations in the chat and the application.
And I know we're getting close to time. So we'll keep on answering the questions we got in the Q&A via text in these last 5 minutes. But yes, please add your questions to the Q&A box so we can get back to you, and we'll make sure those are included in the follow-up email as well. So don't worry, your questions will be answered. And if you registered, you'll be getting the follow-up email. And if you didn't register and you just happen to see this on Facebook, join the library network and you'll get all these details. We also wanted to give a quick shout out to the fact that SciStarter collaborates with HHMI Tangled Bank on another project too. We work with them in relation to their Wild Hope series. So Wild Hope episodes come out pretty frequently. And for all the episodes that have come out so far, when you go to, you can see them online. They are streaming. There are bunches of free materials. They talk about all sorts of things like coral, manatees, jaguars were featured in one of the latest episodes. And you can go to SciStarter.org/wildhope to find even more inspirational stories and citizen science tie-ins. So if you get your community all excited about flyways and birds, and you know that your community just goes nuts for inspiring nature content, The Wild Hope collaboration is a great resource for you as well. And then in our last few minutes here, I'm going to go ahead and pass the mic back to Emma to talk about upcoming.
There's a couple more
events.
questions. There's a couple more questions that have come up, Caroline. So I just want to make sure we are addressing all of those. So my apologies. I think we ultimately changed it to July 1st because that was June 30th is a Sunday. So it's back. July 1st is the deadline. We'll make sure that's updated everywhere. And then 2 weeks after that, we will be announcing awards, and we have 10 awards to give out. What else was the question? How long is the documentary, Alex?
It's 53 minutes long in total. We're going to put together a couple of recommendations for key clips that are really useful for getting an understanding of migration and the role that communities can play in supporting scientists. So if 53 minutes is too long for your event, if you just want to show a little bit of the film before going out with your activity, that's fine too. We hope it's a tool that serves your event. So we'll include some recommendations for key clips to consider showing if the full film is too long.
That's wonderful. Allie had a question. Is the grant just for this fall? I don't think I'll be able to put together a program this fall, but I could do it next spring. Yeah, so this grant is just for fall migration, but you're welcome to put together an event next spring as well around spring migration and utilize the resources. Any other questions before I pass it back to Emma? Hope I answered them all, but let me know if we didn't. We can stay on a minute or two longer. Emma, why don't you close this out?
Yeah, thank you. Just to do a quick closeout because we're at the top of the hour and I don't need much time anyway. That was so chock full of information. Thank you so much for joining us, Tara, Alex, and Caroline. I appreciate your expertise on all these things. I hope for some reason my screen is not showing me. There we go. Awesome. So to close this out, we just want to let you know about a couple other events coming up. So SciStarter Live is a weekly event. So if you want to come back for other topics, sometimes it'll be about birds again. Other times it's things about eating popcorn for science, like what we're doing on June 25th. So if you're interested in joining us then, we'd be happy to have you. We also revamp some older recordings that are not old, they're incredibly relevant to the topics we do today and in citizen science in general. So we encourage all of you to watch our Nature Photography 101 episode in the next couple weeks because of World Photography Day, Rainforest Day, etc. There's a ton of events this month about being a part of nature and nature photography, so feel free. And we have a blog posting to keep you updated on all those things and a link that you use to register for this one, which is used every single time. So we hope you keep coming back. Could you go to the next slide for me, please? Excellent. Yes, so a bunch of these things were covered actually in talking through this event, but just to reiterate, we have a ton of resources. Please contact us. If you had questions about any of this, please let us know. We'll be sending an email to everyone who registered, so you can just reply straight back to that email or send an email back to info@scistarter.org would work as well. And there is training to help you jumpstart your work in citizen science if you're looking for a confidence boost before you start working on something like planning an event. We want to make sure that you're ready, so take advantage of these things. And then on the next slide, we have a short call out to June 25th again. If you want to eat popcorn for science, I am personally taking part in this study, so I'll be testing it out before that event so that I can give you guys a great explanation of it. We also have a survey, so in case you want to share your thoughts about this event and how amazing it was and how awesome our people are, please do. It takes about less than 2 minutes to complete and it's pretty simple. So we'd love to hear your thoughts to help us figure out what to do next. So if you have ideas, we'd love to hear them. And it is the top of the hour, so we're closing out at that exact moment. But if you had questions that you want to stay on to answer, this Zoom line will be open for a little bit longer for any of those questions, if there are any. And then we'll hope to see you again next time. So looking forward to it. Thanks, everyone. And thank you so much to our guest speakers. Appreciate you all.